If the Mosasaurus never went extinct, our world's oceans would be a completely different place. Imagine a 50-foot-long marine reptile equipped with powerful jaws, razor-sharp teeth, and a relentless appetite, still lurking in the depths. How would this apex predator shape marine ecosystems? Would humans be able to safely explore the oceans? And could we ever coexist with such a dominant force beneath the waves? To answer these questions, we need to go back to the Cretaceous period, about 70 million years ago when Mosasaurus ruled the seas. It was one of the largest marine predators ever, surpassing even today's great white sharks. With its streamlined body, strong paddle-like limbs, and a tail built for speed, this reptile was the ultimate hunter. It fed on anything it could: catch, fish, squid, marine reptiles, and even smaller mosasaurs. It was a true terror of the ancient oceans. Now let's imagine that the asteroid impact that wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs 66 million years ago never happened, or at least wasn't powerful enough to cause a mass extinction. The Mosasaurus, along with other prehistoric marine reptiles, would have continued to evolve and dominate the oceans for millions of years. Their presence would have drastically changed the way marine life evolved. Today's largest ocean predators, like great white sharks and orcas, might have been smaller or even completely different in form, as they would have needed to compete with or adapt to living alongside such a massive predator. For humans, the presence of Mosasaurus would pose a significant challenge. Ocean travel, fishing, and even coastal settlements might have been far more dangerous. A creature this size, with an insatiable appetite, would likely see boats as just another potential food source. Would we have developed methods to avoid them? Or would we have attempted to hunt them as we did with whales? The whaling industry nearly drove many species to extinction, so if mosasaurs were still around, human activity might have put them at risk as well. But what if we tried to coexist? Could we ever capture and study them? Could an advanced society develop ways to train or even domesticate these creatures for human use, similar to how orcas have been trained in marine parks? It's a fascinating thought, but controlling a 50-foot predator would be no easy feat. Unlike whales or sharks, mosasaurs were reptiles, meaning they would have required different care and handling. And then there's the question of climate change. Modern oceans are warming and becoming more acidic due to human activity. Would mosasaurs be able to adapt to these rapid changes, or would they struggle to survive in today's environment? If they had evolved alongside mammals like whales and dolphins, their physiology might have changed over time. But it's unclear whether they could have withstood the drastic shifts caused by human-induced climate change. The continued existence of mosasaurs would have rewritten the history of marine life, shifting the balance of power in the ocean's food chain and altering the course of human civilization. Would we have lived in fear of these massive predators, or would we have found a way to live alongside them? Let's go even deeper into how their presence would have shaped modern ecosystems, human activities, and ocean dynamics. If Mosasaurus had survived into the modern era, its impact on marine ecosystems would be immense. As an apex predator, it would control populations of other large marine animals, keeping certain species in check. This could prevent overpopulation of prey species, much like how sharks regulate fish populations today. However, its presence could also suppress the evolution and dominance of species like great white sharks and orcas, which might have remained smaller or developed different hunting strategies to compete with mosasaurs. Additionally, the structure of food chains in the ocean would be very different. In today's world, whales, orcas, and large sharks sit at the top of the marine hierarchy, but with Mosasaurus still around, their roles could have been diminished or even completely altered. Some whales, like blue whales, evolved to be massive filter feeders because there were fewer large marine reptiles to threaten them. If mosasaurs were still patrolling the oceans, whales might have stayed smaller, faster, and more defensive to Avoid predation. Fishing industries would be drastically affected as well. Mosasaurs would compete with humans for some of the same food sources, such as large fish, squid, and even smaller whales. Overfishing is already a major issue in modern times, and having a massive, insatiable predator consuming vast amounts of marine life would only make the situation more complicated. Some fish populations could be completely wiped out due to both human and mosasaur hunting, leading to ecosystem imbalances. Now, let's talk about ocean exploration. Today, deep-sea exploration and even simple activities like scuba diving and surfing are relatively safe, with only rare encounters with sharks or other dangerous creatures. But if mosasaurs roamed the waters, any ocean activity would be significantly more hazardous. Imagine the fear of sailing across open waters, knowing a 50-foot marine reptile could strike at any moment. Shipping routes might have been drastically different. Avoiding certain territories where mosasaurs were known to be active, military strategies would also change. Navies worldwide would have to account for the presence of these creatures, developing new sonar and defense mechanisms to prevent attacks on ships. Submarine warfare could have been more challenging, as mosasaurs might mistake submarines for prey and attack them. Even modern tourism would be affected. Beachgoers might be reluctant to swim in waters known for mosasaur activity, and ocean resorts might require massive protective barriers to keep the creatures away. But what about scientific research? If mosasaurs had survived, they would be one of the most studied animals in history. Biologists and paleontologists would dedicate their lives to understanding their physiology, evolution, and behavior. We might have entire marine sanctuaries dedicated to them, similar to how we protect whales and sharks today. However, if mosasaurs were seen as a threat to human industries or populations, they might have been hunted to near extinction, just as many whale species were. Another fascinating possibility is that humans might have tried to control or domesticate mosasaurs. Could we have trained them like we do orcas, using them for entertainment, research, or even military purposes? The idea of a trained Mosasaurus being used in naval warfare or deep-sea exploration is thrilling. But given their size, intelligence, and natural predatory instincts, it would be an extreme challenge. Climate change also presents a huge question. Modern oceans are rapidly warming and many marine animals are struggling to adapt. If mosasaurs had survived, would they be able to handle these environmental shifts? Would they migrate to cooler waters, or would they evolve new adaptations to survive in changing conditions? The presence of mosasaurs might have even delayed or altered the evolution of some of today's dominant marine species, affecting the entire ocean ecosystem. Ultimately, if mosasaurs never went extinct, our world would be drastically different. Human civilization would have adapted to their existence, shaping industries, travel, and even our understanding of the ocean itself. The balance of marine life would have been entirely restructured, creating a world where one of history's most fearsome predators still ruled the seas. But how would their intelligence compare to today's marine predators? Could they have developed more complex behaviors over time? If mosasaurs had continued evolving, their intelligence might have advanced in ways similar to today's apex marine predators. Modern orcas, for example, exhibit problem-solving skills, cooperative hunting, and even cultural behaviors passed down through generations. Could mosasaurs have developed similar traits, given that some reptiles, like crocodiles, display surprisingly complex behaviors? It's possible that mosasaurs could have evolved into even more efficient hunters. They may have adapted cooperative hunting techniques similar to how orcas work together to catch prey. Imagine a group of mosasaurs surrounding a pod of dolphins, cutting off escape routes and coordinating attacks. This kind of predatory intelligence would make them even more dominant in the ocean. Communication could also be a factor. While mosasaurs were reptiles and not mammals, They might have developed their own methods of communication. Some marine reptiles today, like sea turtles, use body language and vibrations to communicate. If mosasaurs had developed vocalization methods, perhaps similar to the low-frequency sounds produced by some modern reptiles, it could have allowed them to coordinate with each other over long distances. Their territorial behavior might have evolved as well. While modern sharks are mostly solitary hunters, mosasaurs could have developed more social structures, defending their hunting grounds aggressively. This would make certain areas of the ocean completely off-limits to both humans and other marine animals. But let's consider a different angle. Could humans have attempted to coexist with mosasaurs in a controlled environment? If they were anything like modern marine predators, capturing and studying them would be an enormous challenge. Even if we could somehow contain them in massive ocean enclosures, their intelligence and strength might make them impossible to keep in captivity. Just like how orcas have struggled in artificial environments, a mosasaurus in captivity might become stressed, aggressive, and even more dangerous. However, that wouldn't stop us from trying. Imagine an alternate timeline where mosasaurs were incorporated into human culture, worshipped as gods in some regions, feared as sea monsters in others. Ancient civilizations that depended on the ocean, like the Polynesians or Vikings, might have had legends about these creatures, influencing their mythology and navigation techniques. In modern times, scientific advancements might allow for mosasaurs to be tagged and tracked, similar to how we study sharks. We might have massive research programs dedicated to understanding their migratory patterns, hunting behavior, and reproductive cycles. Some conservationists would likely advocate for their protection, while industries like commercial fishing might see them as a major threat to their livelihoods. And what about entertainment? Would we have seen mosasaurs in something like a Jurassic Park-style attraction? The idea of a real-life sea park featuring a living, breathing mosasaurus is both thrilling and terrifying. But as we've seen with modern attempts to keep large predators in captivity, the ethical and logistical challenges would be staggering. A creature of that size and power would be nearly impossible to contain safely. There is also the potential for direct conflict between humans and mosasaurs. If they inhabited areas close to major shipping routes, there would inevitably be encounters. Would we have developed weapons specifically designed to deter or kill them? Would coastal cities be forced to build barriers to keep them away from shorelines? Would deep-sea divers need new types of protective gear to explore mosasaur-infested waters? Ultimately, the continued existence of mosasaurs would redefine our relationship with the ocean. Instead of being the dominant force on the planet, we would have to share Earth's waters with a creature that evolved to rule them. From reshaping marine ecosystems to influencing human history, mosasaurs would have been one of the most powerful and fascinating creatures to ever exist. But now, let's consider an even bigger question. If mosasaurs survived, could other prehistoric marine reptiles have persisted as well? What kind of world would we be living in if the oceans were still filled with the giants of the past? Let's explore that next.